to create your set list on Ableton Live number 10. And basically what I start with is know what the songs are. So for HSM tomorrow, it's gonna be Freedom in the key of D, No One Beside in the key of D, and then Holy Sorgat in the key of A. All of my stuff are actually on the Ableton folder that I've added here. And basically I'll just need to locate all of my track. So what I could do is either click on this to hide and show the browser, or I could do the Option Command B to hide and show them. With the starting, which is Freedom to begin with, what I need to do is expand this folder, and it's in the key of D. So what I would do is expand this further until I could see what I needed. So as you can see, there's plenty of them over here, but I would go something with the edit name. That means it's the one that Eric ended up editing or cutting to the way that's gonna be consistent with the chord chart. So what I would do is, since it's gonna be the first song, is just basically drag the whole thing. So click, drag underneath the first one, so you see the line where it's going here instead of up there. We want it to be right here, so it's underneath the click area. So once I do that, it's basically gonna do all of them. And what I usually do is that I would just click on this so that it's gonna minimize all of them, so it's gonna look smaller. So from there, I would usually just basically do the basics. So I'll try to make this cleaner by closing this off. And what I usually do is that if Eric does the editing on this, they are gonna be warped, and you don't want to do that, because what's gonna happen is sometimes it's gonna go according to the BPM of the file, which is 120, and it's gonna mess everything up. So make sure that you highlight all of them. So what I was doing is I clicked on the first one, hold the shift button, and then click the down button, so it's selecting from top to bottom until I've gone through all of them. And basically what I usually do is check this until it's grayed out. After it's grayed out, I would zoom out, make sure that I covered everything, and then from there he also does something so that it changes the levels of them, which is it's applicable for their room but not for us. So just like if I click on the drums, it's gonna say minus 97 dB, 0.97 dB, and then the bass will be at minus 10. So what I usually do is start resetting him by selecting all of them again. Usually I don't deselect them, I just go straight to doing this, and then click on this, and then type 0, enter, and all of them should be at a good level. Now, this is a good starting point. The next thing that you need to know is that this 1 and 2 is basically the cue out section, and this is the master. Like if I would go to the other tab, which is I could either hit the tab button on the keyboard, and it's gonna show me the 1 for cue out and masters, and then tab again to go back. And then from there, that's basically a good start. And I know it's in the key of D, it's the right tempo, it's not gonna mess up with the timing because I didn't click the warp button. Another thing that I do to make it tidy is I basically click on this and then highlight everything. So shift and then down button again until I have everything highlighted. And from there, I basically either control click, or I just basically do, you see this, that's a command G. So what it does is it groups everything, and what I do is just rename them. So from command G, I would do a click, command R, and I would name this Freedom because it's the first song. And what that does is you could just minimize everything and it looks much cleaner here, and you can expand it if you need to. Couple things that you need to remember is that for the click and track, we want it to be going to the click channel. So what I do, remember the cue out is in channel 1, so what we need to do is do here, click on this, X'd out, and basically this is the click track, so you need to make sure that it's on channel 1. The same goes for the guide. That, and then this will be good. And then now you could just minimize them and it's gonna show it. And then, of course, you know that the drums needs to be disabled, and that's where you could just disable whatever instrument that you want. For sure, we don't want an acoustic because we have a live acoustic player, electric, and everything else. Sometimes I listen to which keyboard needs to be deactivated. With the bass in the multi-purpose room, what I usually do is set this to minus 10 dB and start with that, and then see if it's gonna sound good in the room. What I usually do is minimize the amount of stuff that I see on the screen, so I would just take this out and go there, and then minimize this so it's much cleaner. And then again, I would zoom out by pinching the trackpad, so this is good. This is the first song. So now, the second thing that I would do is basically listen to the end, so I would maximize a little bit towards the end of this and see how far the track will go. So right now, as you can see, there's nothing going on in this section, so let me go further back. There you go. Now we hear something.
Outro.
And you see that this is where it's at.
Big ending.
So you know that that's the ending right here, 157. So I would just do this. And basically remember that it's 157. And what I would do is click and actually zoom out of this. And I know that it's going to be up to that end. So I will just click on this, highlight it. So shift, arrow to the left until I have it all the way to up to here, and then go down. And basically, once I know that everything's highlighted, I would click and drag. Oop, let me do it again. So from here, let me click this. Actually, you could just click and then shift and then arrow down, so you select all the clips, and then from there, I'll just again click and drag to 160. I think that's a good stopping point. The reason being is that you want a little bit of fade out, so there's still music. And what I'll do is I'll just apply the fade out option later. So from there, we know that we're going from first song to the next song. So that's where I'll be doing this. Expand it again. And from there, go to No One Beside. No One Beside is here. Key of D is what we will be doing it with. And again, we want to do the Eric edit. So what I'll do is basically just go all the way down. So what I could do is just minimize this so it's cleaner. And instead of this multi-tracks, this is the unedited version. So you don't want that. You want the edited version. Click, drag underneath. And as you can see, it's gonna go all the way to the start. And let me just minimize this button again, or this screen, so it's gonna look cleaner. So if I go up, it's right there. And minimize. So as you can see, this is the highlighted version, and all of them are warped again. So we want to fix that by basically just, since it's still selected, as you can see, what we could do is just click on the warp button to deactivate it. Now it should be at the right sequence. And from there, since it's still selected, I could just go from here, and we know that the stopping point is 157. So what I'll do is I'll just drag it as close to this area, which is pretty much maybe where the 157 is, and make sure it's aligned with the right track area. So maybe somewhere here. It's a good starting point. So click for click, drums for drums. So we know we're in the right place. So from there, I zoomed in. And again, 157 is a good starting point. So what I would do is again, click and drag up to 157. There you go. Now, from here, I would do the 0 again, so that everything's gonna be evened out, and then expand this, right? And then do master to X'd out. The same goes here, X'd out, and then from there, instead of 1.5, we'll do 1 and 1. That ensures that both the click track and the guide will go to the click channel instead of to the track, so it's not going to be heard in the house. And this is where I just fine-tune everything, make sure that it's at the right place. So why don't we zoom in so we can see more measures and pretty much try to listen to the transition.
Big ending. 1, 2. Intro. 2. three, four.
You see how you still hear the bass note on this one, on the Freedom song? So what I would usually do is basically highlight this, right? And go down until the last of the song and go to the left. Instead of that, I usually go maybe 4 measures before, and you'll see why. So, yeah. So from here, so 157 is my reference point, and I go to maybe 153. And then if I zoom in, and what I do is Option, Command, F. And you see how it does that? That basically does the fade out automation. So as you can see, I think this is going to be a good transition. So let's listen to that section again.
Big ending. One, two. Intro. Two, three, four.
Yes, this is definitely much better. And then after that, we all know that this is already at the right channel, so we just need to deactivate the things that we don't need. So we don't need that, we don't need this, we don't need that, 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 and that. And of course, we have a piano player, so typically we would mute that too. And the vocals are already muted by Eric, so this is good. And again, this is actually, sometimes he puts the real song. So if I would just play this, oops, we jumped to the wrong section. So let me jump to this area and solo this. You would actually hear it. Maybe it's, so that's actually the whole album itself. So that's why you definitely need to mute this, or else you'll be hearing everything in the house and in your ears. You want that. You'd rather hear your bandmates and, yeah, everyone else but this. So after that, that's the second song. And I think after all of this are done, of course, the important part is the top one. If you go all the way up, oh, by the way, I didn't do the grouping for this one, and it's optional. I just do it for the sake of cleanliness. So again, I click on this, shift, down arrow until everything is highlighted. Now it's good. And again, I do the command G, and it does that. And then I click on this, command R to rename, and no one beside, right? Then now that means that you could minimize them, and it should look good for us. So it's gonna look like this, which is much cleaner, especially during the worship service. It's easier for the drummer to do it. So I know there's a third song, but just for the sake of showing everything, let me do this and highlight two important things. So let me minimize this too, so at least it's gonna be easier to see everything. With that being said, there's this important thing that you need to deactivate. So the looper, since we are not doing just clicks, we have multi-tracks for all the songs that we will be having tonight. I would just deactivate this, because if I don't, watch what happens. You see how it loops around? It's because it's a looper. That's what the MIDI control or the MIDI program that I did with this. And we don't want that for this section. And at the same time, we need the stopper just so, for example, at the end of the song, of the last song of the set, and the drummer forgets to hit the space bar, this is going to go up to 1,000 or millions of measures. So you want to have it stop by itself, so at least you can serve energy, power of the laptop, especially if it's not plugged in. So what I usually do is I do a cut and paste. So I would do a command X, or what you could do, I think if you hit control click, you could do the cut. So again, command X is what I do, and save it. For example, if this is the end of the set list, I would go all the way here and just paste it at the end of the song. And that's where it's at now. So that if at the end of it, if I click this, it's just gonna stop there, right? So that's pretty much everything that needs to be done. The last thing that's important that we need to do is basically to add the keyboard shortcuts. So we already have the marker for the first one, so that's already been free and given to us. So we just need to basically start with this. What I usually do is I put the marker on the second time it counts in. So let me show you what I mean.
1, 2, intro,
Yep, when it says intro.
2.
So I would go and click it on that section where it says intro, and that's where I'll put the marker, so at least it's much easier, especially during rehearsal, to just jump straight to that area. So again,
And
yep, around this area is where it's at. So I'll just put this, click set, and then that's where it's at. Now, if I zoom out, we have the first and the second song. So I'll just click the key, right? And then what I'll do is click on this and hit the number 1 key on my keyboard. That indicates that my number 1 is going to control or go there. And then here, if I click this, 2. And to double check, if you want to make sure, what you could do is, let me deactivate this first, is that if you go here and then click the key, it's going to show that number 1 will be in the indicator 1. So that makes sure that you have everything set up. And if this is already set up, then you could just tell your drummer, if you're going to the second song, just do 2 spacebar. You see how it goes from here, that arrow, to there. If I hit number 1, and then if I hit number 2, it's gonna go there, and then spacebar.
intro, 2, 3, 4.
Yep, so that's pretty much what you need to learn. The last thing, of course, that you need to do is basically to click and save everything, which is you just do a save as set list, and then from there you should be good. And I think that's the basics on what you need to do in order to set your set list for the day, and you should be good to go and start worshiping.